Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammang sangham namasami. Welcome everybody to this Sunday morning program on the Magha Puja day. This is the day following the Magha Puja full moon. There are several important events that we remember on this day, which I'm hoping we can make a link between the stories and the great persons that we remember, and the theme that we've taken up for this winter retreat about stream entry. One of the events that we remember today is about the Buddha's stepmother, Mahapajapati Gotami, who is remembered as the founder of the Bhikkhuni Sangha. She was the first and the leader of a large group of bhikkhunis who approached the Buddha requesting the full ordination in the monastic form, and thereby fulfilling the completion of establishing the fourfold Sangha of bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, and male and female lay followers, all of whom the Buddha declared should be knowledgeable, skillful, accomplished in the Dhamma, and capable of pointing out and explaining the Dhamma. Well, on a particular Magha Puja day, Mahapajapati realized that the Buddha's life would be coming to its end, that his final nirvana, his Parinibbana in the Pali language, would be coming, and that her own final nirvana, her own Parinibbana, would come before the Buddha. At this time, the Buddha would have been 80 years old, and Mahapajapati was 120 years old. When she made this determination, the number of lay followers, the number of bhikkhuni disciples who had gone forth with her originally 40 years earlier, they all made the determination to also go out at the same time. And this caused a big miraculous earthquake. The earth shook and trembled with that, and the gods, especially the devas, the female gods who were dwelling there at the Bhikkhuni Vihara were weighed down by grief. They were piteously weeping. One saying they have in Pali language is during the rainy season, when the sky pours down, it's a Deva Vasatu. So the Devas make the rain. So we could think of the rain as being the tears of the Devas. They compared this disappearance of Mahapajapati and the 500 disciples as being something like how the stars disappear at the time of dawn. So the stars that are shining so brightly in the night sky, when the sun comes up, that would be the Nirvana, how they disappear. Or they compared it to how the mighty Ganges River, with its 500 tributaries, disappears altogether when reaching the great ocean. And then with that lamentation, the human lay women who were not yet fully enlightened felt the rain and the earthquake and wanted to know what was happening. And they found out what was happening. And they also were upset and distraught. Isn't it interesting, the levels and layers of the our understanding of the Buddha's teaching? Everything which is subject to arise is also subject to cessation. This teaching about impermanence, one could take it as the impermanence of the constant turning and turning of samsara, seeing that beings arise in the realms of existence according to their karma, and then at the end of their lifespan they disappear from that form and go into a different form. And likewise, the seasons and all of the cycles of nature and all of the forms of the material world are constantly changing their form. But this is an arising and a cessation, which is in some kind of a sense part of a feeling of a continued existence. But actually, the Buddha's teaching of Nirodha, of cessation, is that this cycle of samsara, which has been turning for how many, uncountable number of eons, beings have been arising and coming to birth and coming to the end of their lifespan and going to their death and arising again. Each individual personally has been going around and around like this for endless time. But the Buddha said there is the possibility of the final cessation, wherein it's not necessary to arise again. This is almost unfathomable to our human mind. That's final cessation. When we fully comprehend it, perhaps we too shall be enlightened. The Mahapajapati comforted the devas and the women. She spoke to them in this sweet way. Enough with your crying, children. Today, it's your time to laugh. And then she spoke her lion's roar. I have understood suffering, the cause of sufferings allayed. I've experienced cessation. I have cultivated the path. So this is the Four Noble Truths. And the cessation is the cessation of an arahant, one for whom the conditions which would lead to another rebirth have been completely used up and extinguished. After this, Mahapajapati declared that she would have her final awakening, her final Nirvana, in 1 week's time. And then she spent 1 week teaching the Dhamma to her disciples and to all who would listen. This, in a way, is a kind of a parallel. So her story is like a parallel to the Buddha's story. On this same day, the Buddha also made the same declaration. And on this same day, he had the conversation with Mara about his final cessation and his conversation with Ananda. And Ananda also was disturbed and overwhelmed with grief. And the Buddha also comforted him and taught him. He said, Ananda, didn't I tell you everything is impermanent? Likewise, there were many miraculous occurrences at the time of the Buddha's final nirvana, and there were also many miraculous manifestations for Mahapajapati at the time of her nirvana. I was interested in reflecting about what was Mahapajapati's Dhamma. What did she have to tell her disciples during that last week? And I see it summarized here. This is very simple, so concise, and so actually universally true. She said, the teacher has been worshipped by me. I have done what the Buddha taught. The heavy load has been laid down. The ties to existence removed. In our program during this winter retreat focusing on stream entry, we've emphasized associating with a true person, listening, paying respect, and listening to a true person. And then this is what, when she said, the teacher has been worshipped by me, this is what she's done. She found the best of all teachers and listened. And then we should practice the Dhamma according to the Dhamma. We should practice according to the teachings. And this is her statement: I have done what the Buddha taught. So she did the practice according to the teachings fully, without any restriction. The teaching that was given to Mahapajapati, there's not very many, hundreds and hundreds of different suttas explaining what teachings were given to her. But there's two in particular. And in one, they get a sutta about investigating the six senses, investigating impermanence, dukkha, abandoning, turning away, relinquishment in relationship to the six senses. And there's one other sutta where Mahapajapati, after she had obtained the stream entry, but before she had become an arahant, she made a very beautiful monastic robe and desired to give that robe to the Buddha. But the Buddha refused to accept that robe. And he explained that different levels of giving gifts, and that giving a gift to the fourfold sangha of bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, or the dual sangha of bhikkhus, a robe to the entire dual sangha of the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, is more powerful than just giving something to the bhikkhus or just giving something to the bhikkhunis. And giving something to the sangha, even one side of the sangha, as a sangha gift, is more powerful than giving to an individual. And so in that way, this was before the establishment of the Bhikkhuni Sangha. So the Buddha was giving his prediction about the existence of the Bhikkhuni Sangha. It was almost like a promise, wasn't it? But then giving this compassionate and loving care for the continuation of these teachings, so that the subsequent generations of people who are still caught up in this randa samsara will have the opportunity to still meet a true person, to still meet somebody who has obtained stream entry, to meet somebody who has made the conversion from the mundane path to the noble path, someone for whom the Dhamma eye has opened, who has seen Nibbana, and who is on the way to crossing over to the final realization of Nibbana, to giving up any further states of existence. The Buddha wanted us here today, right now, to have this chance. And so he established the fourfold Sangha with bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, laymen, and laywomen, who are all capable of understanding the Dhamma, capable of realizing the path that was taught by him, capable of explaining, teaching, and pointing out the Dhamma so that then it could be passed along. And then he also gave the Vinaya so that there was the opportunity for those in the monastic form to become successful and to sustain their purity and not to become corrupted, so that then the Bhikkhu Sangha and the Bhikkhuni Sangha would be long living and last for a very long time as an essential part of this passing down, this carrying on of this great heritage. So this is what Mahapajapati Gotami received when she received the teachings of the Buddha. And then she did what the Buddha taught. She practiced the Dhamma in accord with the Dhamma. When we say the heavy load has been laid down, when she said the heavy load has been laid down, I think she was referring to the 5 aggregates of clinging. Clinging to the form, the feeling, the volitional formation, the consciousness, which when they clung to becomes the fuel for rebirth. And so when that burden is laid down, there's no more fuel. So the candle is able to go out and not to light up again. The ties to existence, she said the ties to existence have been removed. And this is referring to the fetters, the yojanas, which are keeping one like being, it's like a torture, isn't it? They used to punish prisoners by tying them to a rack and or tying them to a cross or something like that. So the fetter of sensual craving you know, where we live right now on this this flesh realm, with this body which is made of meat, and which is has got the life force like that. So then the continuation of the life energy in this meat body is very much connected with sensual craving and sensual desire. So it's both the reactivity of pleasure and of liking and disliking, of pleasure and pain, of trying to get pleasure, trying to get rid of pain, but it's also then the whole like a compulsive drive that creatures have in our realm of existence to live a little bit longer in this kamaloka, in this world of sensual desire. That's the first fetter. And then the second fetter is called the bhava, bhavatanha, the thirst for existence, which has also a special reference to we have this idea, those of us who are trapped, like a flesh and blood creature subjected to everything, that we have all the trouble connected with our bodies, and even the frailties of a mind, which is conditioned by the frailties of the brain. Then we may long for an immaterial kind of existence, like a heavenly existence, a purely mental existence, and that's could be qualified, in the Buddhist cosmology as the heavenly realm, or the fine material realm, or the immaterial realm, and so but it still is in existence. And as long as we have any kind of craving or attachment to an existence, then we didn't escape. And then the last fetter, the last tie to existence, is the ignorance. And as we have seen, ignorance is destroyed by knowing, by true knowledge. So that vidya vimutti, the liberation by true knowledge, is the final cutting of the last fetter. And so this is a summary of Mahapajapati's Dhamma, exactly the same as the universal Dhamma. So you could say, as the 500 tributaries of the great Ganges River all flow together and merge together, and then when it reaches the great ocean, then there's no individual identity at all left together. So there's no gender, no race, no social class, no particularity of one's personal history or personal identity left when everything has flowed together into the great ocean. And just the same way that the Dhamma that's realized by anyone who's fully enlightened doesn't require any of those distinctions about personality, but instead it's a universal. So the Buddha was a Sambuddha. He was able to discover this path of the way to awakening, and the disciples were arahants, the worthy ones, and the Buddha was an arahant. And so in some way, all of the enlightened beings are the same in a certain way, by what has been realized. Mm. So this lesson gives me hope. I know for sure that even one who has not realized the noble path can directly experience something like the pattern of the Four Noble Truths. even a beginner or somebody with a beginner's mind can know about dukkha. You don't even need to be a Buddhist to know about dukkha. Beings and not even a human, even elephants and whales and all kinds of other beings can sorrow and lament with the hardship of life and the separation and parting from their loved ones. And so much the more so humans with our ability to do a lot of thinking and with that big brain of ours, which is involved in thinking and thinking and thinking. So the more we think, the more we're capable of digging ourselves into a deeper hole of dukkha, realizing the separation from who we love, and realizing the desire to grasp onto what we love, including our own life, or whatever we think is our own identity, the longing for stability. And then when that grasping encounters the inevitable failure, that we can't make anything last forever. So everybody knows about dukkha. And even the second noble truth, even an ordinary person can understand at some level that because the more we give way to our greed, the more we suffer. The more we grasp onto protecting and preserving a grandiose form of identity, the more we suffer. Somebody who's a tremendously powerful ruler who has a great kingdom or a great country, who has absolute power, who's able to have anything they want simply by saying the word, who's seems to be like all powerful, even they would like suffer even more so than somebody who's just a humble person who only has their little shack or something like that. So we can see that we see how the clinging and the grasping and the holding on and trying to stop time causes our dukkha. Everybody can see that, and everybody can experience some kind of cessation. Whatever you were holding on to before, when you let it go, if you let it go temporarily, you experienced a temporary relief from your dukkha. And if you let it go permanently, you experienced a permanent relief from your dukkha. Everybody knows this. And everybody who had the wonderful opportunity to hear these teachings, this path of practice, who had enough confidence to give it a try, to undertake this training in virtue, concentration, and wisdom. We may have already seen that the level of dukkha in our life has gone down by 30%, 40%, 50%, 80%. And so we may believe and have this faith that if we keep on with this teaching, in line with this teacher, we can cut it 100%. We can, by crossing over that threshold onto the noble path, into that stream entry. The Buddha said that if you compare the biggest, I guess, the biggest Himalaya mountain with 7 grains of sand. The destruction of that great mountain is 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 1,000,000 times greater than the destruction of 7 grains of sand. When you get stream entry, it's as if you destroyed the whole mountain. You only have 7 grains of sand left to take care of. This is the promise, and we can believe that in the Buddha's day, perhaps it was easier because of the presence of the perfect teacher, that hundreds and hundreds of women were able to be fully enlightened arhats, and thousands and thousands of men were able to become fully enlightened arhats in that time. But even now, although we may think that the arhat is more rare, more difficult to find, we think that the Dhamma is still alive, and that it's possible to practice, possible to obtain the results of this promise, possible to obtain the destruction of the fetters, and certainly attainable to obtain the stream entry. We just have to follow the example of Mahapajapati by giving our vandana to the teacher, doing what the Buddha taught, becoming willing to put down the burden, to lay down the flag, to just let it go. The entire 5 khandhas, let it go. Everything that you're clinging to, let it go. And then it's promised the ties to existence shall be removed for us. Well, it's the custom on this Sunday program to give an opportunity for questions. And I want to leave time in this hour to have a little bit of guided meditation, to meditating together, to kick you off, to keep on continuing your meditation through this day. If someone would like to offer a further comment or further reflection, or if Aya Brahmavara, I've opened up your picture to welcome you here in the room. Would you have something to add?
Thank you very much, Aya. Just really appreciating these beautiful Magha Puja reflections, and it's really lovely to hear a little bit about the life of Mahapajapati Gotami, and who knows about these stories. I mean, the veracity of the stories, but we love stories, and it's very helpful, I think, to just consider those human beings who were there at the time of the Buddha and the humanity of the Buddha himself. So I'm really very touched by this sharing and the encouragement for us all to not feel that, we can't attain stream entry, not to feel we can't practice to the end of the path, to the final goal. We certainly can. And it's good to let go of any ideas that tell us otherwise. So thank you very much, Aya, for your reflections. I really can't add anything but gratitude.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Or would you rather, let me see. I'm trying to, there, now I can see you. Okay, Sheila.
Good morning, Aya. Thank you so much. My question is, at what point do we know, or do we ever know, at least for lay people, that we have attained stream entry? What I've been reflecting on is certainly understanding impermanence and that which arises must cease. And I'm just noticing how the human body is wired to respond so emotionally to impermanence, for instance, in the form of the death of a loved one. And I certainly know and understand in the instance of the death of my nephew that our lives, my life, is impermanent. And I'm finding, as I mentioned before, a lot of comfort in death meditation. But it seems like there's a point of transcendence from the human kind of mechanics, I guess, the mechanics of that body, rupa, to achieving or moving into transforming into stream entry. And I don't know if I'm conflating things, but
Yeah.
that's the question for me.
No, Sheila, I think you've got it very much on point as far as the question. The five aggregates continue doing what they do as long as we're alive for the rest of the time that we have this body of meat. And so then the emotional responses are part of the operation of the five khandhas. So even the way like a loss, hits us in the body, and the feeling connected with that, and the the perceptions and thoughts associated with that. So one difference is to experience all of that as without the identification. So these five khandhas are just doing their thing. But I'm not trying to declare that as my identity. I'm just experiencing the manifestation of the five khandhas doing their thing. I've been looking in the sutras for some descriptions about what stream entry is, how we can tell. And one prediction is that the type of evil, unwholesome deed that would cause a person to be reborn in hell is impossible for someone who has stream entry. So when you find that you could not kill a fly, that would be one of the, or if you can kill a fly, then you say, well, you're not there yet as far as stream entry. And then, and I actually, it's a funny thing because most people, like modern people, a lot of, I think they did a survey of like Americans, and even though Americans are not very religious, a lot of them believe in heaven, but a lot of Americans don't believe in hell. But actually, a lot of us are living an existence which is quite hellish. we're living an existence where we're kind of like in danger of this a world of woe, and so it's super important to anybody who is in a world of woe to get as far away as you can from hell by clearing up your virtue, your ethics, and practicing loving kindness a lot. That's like the importance of the Brahma Vihara practice, and the practice of virtue is to give us like a little bit of safety, a distance from the terrible danger of the hell one. But I'm diverting from your question. So one of the marks is of stream entry is not able to do that kind of serious evil deed. Meditation will be very easy. So the five hindrances would not be blocking you from being able to pick up meditation. And then you would have perfect confidence in the triple gem. Your realization besides understanding the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, you would also have some kind of a direct experience of the Tenfold Path of this knowing understanding. And with that understanding, liberation or a release from being trapped, caught like a prisoner. So rather than being a prisoner of emotional reactions, it's like the emotional reactions are still there, but one is no longer a prisoner. So I hope this may be helpful as some of the marks of somebody who has stream entry.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Richard?
Thank you. Also, it's when you see that the three lower fetters have been destroyed in you. In other words, you no longer identify with the sat existing kaya body, with the existing body, or any possible existing body as self. When you see that, and I prefer this translation for my own reasons. When you see that rites and rituals do not lead to enlightenment, they may have some effect in some way in the in the objective reality, but they have nothing to do with attaining enlightenment. And when you see that you have complete faith in the Buddha teaching, so the three lower fetters have been completely extinguished. At that point, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's not just a question of maybe examining your motives or anything like that. The Dhamma has awakened in you, and that's why Buddha says at that point, you've understood the Four Noble Truths and you possess the path. That's actually at the point where the path is really going to start working. Okay, and you're going to see that it's a progressive thing, because from right understanding, which is that attainment, right view springs up in your mind. I can explain to you, it's okay. I'm going to reveal something to you. When I was 27 years old, I attained stream entry. Now you can completely say, no, that's not possible. I know stream entry is so difficult and all these things. But when it happened, I didn't know I attained stream entry. I was a Zen practitioner on a Zen retreat, and I didn't even have those concepts. Many Zen traditions, they don't even talk about a lot of Theravadan concepts. But when it happened, and it was while listening to the Roshi give a lecture, so that's why I understand so clearly that it's by listening to a voice of another, their words, vacha, right? And the yoniso manasikara completely penetrating through to it, that the mind can attain this. And as I always explained it to a few people, I haven't actually revealed this to hardly anybody. But I think it's important right now because you bhikkhunis are trying. You're thinking very, at this point, very strongly about this idea. So it was like an atomic bomb went off in my mind and vaporized all my whole old way of thinking about things. And the world or the universe, which I was viewing upside down, suddenly turned right side up, and I could see the reality of the universe and exactly how everything worked in the universe. And I saw that it was my own thoughts, my own chaitana, volitional sankhara thoughts that were telling me things about the universe and therefore creating my self-identity. In my particular case, because I was so intently looking for, the absolute or what is the truth of life, the thoughts that immediately came to me was, oh, I'm this completely unenlightened individual who's wandering the universe, searching, having to find philosophies and teachers and something, to help me figure out this problem. And I saw through that was a sankhara in my own mind. Not that has no importance. I'm not making that point. But I was literally holding myself and limiting myself in that sense of self-identity. And seeing that it was my own mind that was like tricking myself due to avidya, which I later came on to understand when I started studying Theravadan, because I wanted to find out, what was the roots of this, and that's what led me to Theravadan Buddhism and to study the Buddha's actual teaching. So that avidya, and that's why I translate this way, incomplete knowledge. Due to incomplete knowledge, you have wrong ideas about things. And so later on, when I read in the sutras, those three characteristics of getting rid of those things, the three lower fetters, that's exactly what happened to me. From that moment forward, I had complete faith that the Buddha was the enlightened being. I knew that I wasn't this physical body, and I knew that rites and rituals had nothing to do with anything in terms of attaining enlightenment. And but I didn't know that right away, because again, I was a Zen student. Okay, so I could go on and explain a few other things. I'll give you an example. So as this was coming forward in my mind, and I could see now the end of birth and death. Not that I had become enlightened completely. This is the first level of enlightenment. I compare it to a newborn baby just taking birth and breathing and crying for its mother and things like that. And I was sitting there, and I could see the end of birth and death was now in sight. It was attainable. And I heard a bird outside the building that we were sitting in. And I raised my head to look in that direction. But when I heard the bird, I knew what it was to become a bird like that, what its consciousness was, what its mentality was, how it was manifesting itself as a bird. And as I was experiencing that, the Roshi goes, and so when you hear a bird, are you not one with that bird? And then I raised my eyes up to look. The windows were up high from where we were sitting on the floor. And as I looked out the window in the direction of the bird, there was a pine tree there. And as soon as I saw that pine tree, I knew completely what it was to be a pine tree, how it takes birth as a pine tree, how it manifests itself and everything. And the Roshi goes, and so when you see a pine tree, are you not one with that pine tree? And then I was so happy and so overjoyed, I began to cry. And I couldn't stop crying. It was crying from sheer happiness and joy that now I could see the end of this. I could see the end of this birth and death. And it was definitely attainable. Now, how long it's going to take to get there, it depends on the individual, right? But it was very clear to me. So the point I'm trying to make by telling this is that it's your own mind that's stopping you. It's your own mind making up these stories, these Chaitanya Sankaras, I'm this, I'm that, and this is hard, and this is easy, and da, da, da. Just focus your mind on the Buddha's teaching. Just keep it on that and see clearly it'll come to you, and your mind will open up. And that's why when you see it in the stories, they're listening, and they almost always say the same thing as in the earlier stories, all dhammas that are subject to arising are subject to cessation. And that goes with the Four Noble Truths. So you see that, all dhammas that are subject to arising are subject to cessation. But they cease because you cease it. You stop thinking those sankaras. You transcend beyond that, okay? So it's all up to you. There's no external thing, there's nothing. Externals can help you, but you have to make that transition. Your mind has to flip over, has to change in that way. Anyways, you can accept, or anyone there can accept what I've just said. And this is not a thing that I normally have told anyone. I've only told a couple of personal close friends and Buddhist associates and stuff. Because it's not a matter of pride. I'm not saying this out of, I'm good or bad or indifferent or whatever. It's got nothing to do with that. All that kind of disappears. It's simply that I would love to see everyone come to this state. I would love to see everyone, enjoy this freedom and see samsara is going to end. There's no question about it, And that's my only motivation, the only thing that would make me, feel happy, about revealing this to anybody. But other than that, if it bothers you in any way, just forget I ever said it. Just forget about it. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Probably said too much. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Richard. And I want to acknowledge that most of us in this group have been meeting together for a long time and discussing the Dhamma and our own personal experiences along this path in a spirit of mutual respect and mutual appreciation, as well as our faith in the teaching as it's been handed to us. And so it's, I think in the light of that we see, Richard, that you're willing to tell us about what you experienced on that occasion. Dear friends, I see two more hands up, Elizabeth and Ren. And Diane, I see 3 hands up. But however, there's a family outside which wants to offer the Buddha Puja and the Dana to the bhikkhunis on this special moon day. So I'd like to invite the 3 of you to come back at the 1 o'clock session this afternoon or the 7 o'clock session this evening, and remember what's in your mind about this. And the themes are all interrelated, and so you may have a chance to bring up the comment or the question later on. I'm going to let us come to a close.
I have a show today, so I won't be there, but thank you. But maybe next week.
Yeah, next week. If we live, we'll still be good friends to each other and continuing this conversation. The Lord the perfectly enlightened and blessed one. I render homage to the Buddha, the blessed one. The teachings so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha.
Thank you, Aya.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Sadhu, sadhu.
And thank you,
Thank
Richard.
you, Aya. Thank you,
Thank you very
Richard.
much, Ayas.